Okay, thanks for your time, taking the time out to watch this tape. What we'll be doing is giving a brief presentation on Neverwinter Nights. This is the exact presentation we gave at E3. In the whole presentation, we're going to try and cover kind of where Neverwinter came from, what it's about, and what we're trying to do with that. So while I'm talking, one of our demo people, Aidan Scanlon, one of our designers, is actually going to be running the tool set, building an area while I'm talking. So Neverwinter grew out of these early discussions right around the time we were finishing up Baldur's Gate 1. We were talking about, well, what's the next big thing? What would be something exciting to work on? Where are games going? And you got to remember, this was a pretty exciting time. You had Ultima Online just released. You have this massively multiplayer gaming. People are starting to see the potential of it. You've got thousands of people interacting. Really exciting stuff happening. So we looked at it and we thought, well, how do we get involved in this space? Well, we did beyond looking at it. We actually went in and played it for a couple months and had a lot of fun with it. But during that playing, we noticed a couple of key patterns that kept happening. People weren't playing with 1,000 other people. They were playing in smaller groups. You had a little group forming of 7, 8 people, sometimes 2 or 3. They'd group up, they'd go off, share a little adventure, and then they'd turn around, head back, and they'd sit around and chat about it. So we thought, well, hey, this is really interesting. What if you don't have to do 1,000 players to make a really compelling multiplayer experience? What if you only have to do groups of 6 or 7? Maybe up to 10 people. Maybe up to even 64. But at the same time, we were just finishing up Baldur's Gate 1, which was this huge, epic, story-driven game. So we were thinking, well, what if we could do it? What if we could pack the best of both worlds? You essentially have the story-based nature of a single-player game, but the social interaction of a massively multiplayer game. And that's kind of where Neverwinter came from. Now, part of the whole concept, as well as the idea of the tool set, we kept noticing all these parallels between pen and paper Dungeons and Dragons and what we were doing with Neverwinter. And one of the big things that always happened with pen and paper campaigns that I participated in, we'd play one adventure that was a pre-made adventure that or we'd play one that we had bought, and usually the next adventure we played was one that the DM in our group had written. So that became kind of an important part of the whole Neverwinter concept. The idea that not only can you play adventures, but you can also create your own. So along those lines, we came up with the Neverwinter toolset, which is what you're seeing right now. Now what Aidan's doing currently is actually building an area transition. We've quickly painted down a little area, and now he's going to hook it up to the previous area we've built, which is actually using the forest tile set. So now we've got an area transition built. You can actually go back and forth. Now Aidan's showing us kind of the 3D nature of the toolset right now, just kind of moving around, zooming around. Now when we started out with the Neverwinter toolset, we made 3 basic rules. First rule, this thing has to be powerful. We have to be able to make a Baldur's Gate level story with this thing. Second rule, this thing has to be easy to use. It has to be accessible to the end user. Somebody can load it up, quickly and easily create an adventure, and actually have fun creating an adventure. And the third is we've got a 3D engine, let's use it. Let's make this thing look good while you're playing with it. So while I've been talking, Aidan's been moving along, and he's actually dropped down a couple fire beetles in the first room, a couple giant spiders in the next room. Now he's moving on. He's going to drop down a bugbear. D&D fans out there, you know what a bugbear is. If you're not a D&D fan, bugbear's about a 7-foot tall humanoid creature. They're not very smart. They're smart enough to use weapons, though. We've got a nice big room here, so what we're going to do is dump down a little ambush. We're going to drop down a couple goblin archers. We've already got a little shaman drop down there. We'll dump down a couple goblin foot soldiers. We'll call them grunts. And we'll move over to the next room, and we'll drop down yet another goblin. This guy's special. His name's Lickspittle. Now what makes Lickspittle so special isn't his name, it's that he has a conversation. So when Lickspittle sees you, he runs up to you and he says, "No kill I." That's his first line. Now under that you have a little T and a response. It says, "Give me one good reason." Now the T is actually a conditional that allows you to evaluate for anything. You could check the user's intelligence. You could check their charisma. You'd say if their intelligence is 4 or below, the only response they can offer is duh. If the response is 15 or higher, they can have some pretty amazing response. Another option is you set it so your response is for a half-elven ranger at night. That's when you get that specific response. It's an extremely powerful system. So let's move on. Now if you had a chance in Lickspittle's dialogue there, you saw something, he mentioned something about a demon in the next room. So I guess we better go in and create a demon. This demon's called a Balor. For the D&D fans, you know what a Balor is. You're not a D&D fan, I'll hit the high points. 12 to 14 foot tall, humanoid creature, flaming wings, lightning sword, pretty damn tough. He's got a strength of 25, he's got 210 hit points, and down on the bottom left, he's a 15th level planar creature. Part of what makes him so powerful is his intelligence. Well, we've scripted his intelligence through the Neverwinter scripting language. Here we can see his on-attack scripting event. It's basically one line of code. It says action, attack, get last attacker. So in one line of code, we're able to actually find out who attacked me last, find where they are, plot a path to them, and then begin executing my most powerful attacks against them. It's pretty awesome for one line of code. Now over on the right side, we'll just jump back there. Over on the right side, you can see a whole list of functions that are available to the scripting language. Now the great thing about this is we're actually not done yet. These are just a huge amount of power in this system. There's only one problem with the scripting language though. It is a scripting language. Not everybody's going to be able to use it. So along those lines, what we've done is we're actually going to open source all our modules. So when you buy the game, our modules ship in .mod format. You load them up in the tool set, and you can begin seeing what we did. You're wondering how we scripted some character, you can go in and take a look. Or if you really like one character we wrote, you could actually go in and take that character and just export them into your own adventure. So now that we've got a dungeon that's full of creatures, we'll go through and we'll create a couple weapons. Or a little weapon to start with. So Aiden's already created it, named it Frostbrand. Now he's just selecting through some of the parts. And now he's into the real power of the system, the idea of properties. So these are all the properties you can assign to a weapon. So since we named it Frostbrand, we've got to give it an attack bonus, just one attack bonus. And we got to go down and we'll give it a damage bonus of type cold. So now we go into the attack bonus, we set it up so it's +3, we go to the damage bonus as well, +3. Now the rule is Frostbrand's +3 to hit, +6 versus fire using creatures. So our damage bonus, cold, against cold-based creatures, it'll do no damage. Normal, it'll do 3, and against fire-based creatures, it'll do double damage. So now we've got a weapon, that's pretty cool. Now we'll go in and create a suit of armor. Now we'll drop down the suit, and let's take a look at it. Here's the icon. The icon's awful nice, but here's the 3D model that you'd actually see in game. Now you notice all these little buttons all around the outside there. Now Aiden's just going to cycle through. Now these are some of the options you have for how your character can appear. What's neat is our lead programmer, Scott Gregg, actually ran through, he figured out all the possible permutations, and it was in excess of 300 billion possible combinations. Now 300 billion, that's pretty cool. Admittedly, a lot of them are going to look like complete ass. I've got one gold left foot that's metallic and the rest of me is naked. That's going to look pretty silly. But what's going to look good, we figure 2 or 3 million, maybe 4 million different combinations that are going to look good. So we're okay with that 3-4 million number. So now we've got a suit. It's also got the properties tag. We could go in and assign properties to it. Well, let's just go back. Okay, so now we've got a suit placed. We've basically built ourselves a little dungeon. Took us, well, under 10 minutes. It's not too bad. So we'll save it out, and we'll get the guys to fire it up in the game. Okay, launching the game. Now what we'll do is we'll go in, we'll load in the module that we created. Memory serves, we called the module E3 Demo 2001A. So we've got our module loaded up. Here's the characters available that I've created for this adventure. We've got Callie, who's a 15th level sorcerer. She's pretty good, but say we wanted to create our own character. We can go through, create a new character. On the left is a listing of pre-made characters that we could choose from. So say you didn't know the rules or you weren't really interested in creating a custom character, you just pick from one of the pre-made characters and go adventuring with them. Or you can click custom and we can create our own. So the character creation system's pretty simple. It's fairly similar to Baldur's Gate. We have 7 different races, 11 different classes, almost 200 different portraits. What you can see here are just the males. We have an equivalent number of females, and there's also monster portraits. Now we are using the new 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons rules, and there's a couple neat things about them. One of the first things is the idea of the whole point buy system. Instead of rolling up my attributes with a dice and having random abilities, I actually expend points to buy my abilities. Now, from a game developer standpoint, I love this. The reason I love it is I can look at your character, and in 2 seconds, I can tell you if that character's been hacked or not. So now we've got some decent stats for our character. We can move on to the next part. What we're calling this is packages. Now, packages encompass skills and feats. Skills and feats allow a huge degree of customization for your character. It's possible to go in and create a ranger character who specializes in stealth, or go in, create a cleric character who can use a greatsword. You could even go in and create a sorceress who could use full plate mail armor while casting spells. You take the light, medium, and heavy armor feats, and then take the still spell feat. Quite powerful system. So now we've got our basic character together. Let's go in and customize what he looks like. So we'll go in, we'll set a skin color for him, give him a different hair color. We can even go in and set some tattoo colors. Now we can flip through, cycle through where tattoos appear on him. I kind of like that setup. So now we can go through and cycle through some clothing sets. These will be preset sets pre-built sets that I can select from. So I kind of like that look. We can cycle through some of the heads. We've got one head that looks like an evil Abe Lincoln, so we'll pick that one. Okay, so now we've got our character, Evil Abe. We'll give him a name. Well, that's not a bad name. Here, what do we got? Court? That's pretty good. So we'll go on. Now he's pretty cool. 15 strength gives him a +2 bonus to hit, to damage. Constitution +2 bonus. But he's got 12 hit points. I'm thinking there's a Baylor in the dungeon, and that could be a bit of a problem. So we dump him, and we'll take Callie instead. 15th level, I think her chances are a lot better. So now we'll load into the module that we created. Well, actually, ahead of time, we created one more area, which was actually, we labeled it the forest area. It was created using the Deep Woods tile set. Now the idea here, we really wanted to convey the feeling of being in amongst the trees, walking through foliage, huge tree trunks around you. We've actually done a couple neat little additions since last year. One of them, little streams in the tile set. Another addition is actually, if you look at her hair and her clothing as she walks, you'll notice that it moves. We thought the characters looked so good last year with armor on, with the environment map metal, we wanted to do something special for the characters in clothing. So we came up with a dynamic cloth system in our spare time, and we're pretty happy with the results. So what we can see up ahead here, we had a couple characters just go through a quick conversation, just something to add a little ambience. Some half-orc male character and a human female talking. She's upset at him, he's not sure why. Just something to add a little interest to the area. Up to the left here, we can see another couple characters. We've got a mother and a daughter. The mother's warning the daughter about playing near dangerous things. Just, again, adding a little more interest to the area, making it a more, essentially, dynamic environment. And up ahead here, we can see two more characters. We've got a halfling male on the left and a human male on the right. You can really notice the size difference between the two of them. So let's go up and talk to the one. So we run up, we talk to the first character. His name's Alexei. It turns out, since we've created the module, I know what the story is. Turns out Alexei's actually the leader of a gypsy band. Now the gypsy band was charged with transporting a gem. Unbeknownst to them, the gem actually contained the soul of the Baylor who's in the dungeon below. The Baylor actually had a goblin come up, steal the gem from the band, and Alexei's actually asked us, as a adventuring party, since they're gypsies and not really equipped to handle it, if we can go in search of the gem. He's also mentioned a local cleric who might be able to help us out. So here's our cleric character. He's walked up, and he'll be played by Bob McCabe. So we've partied up, and we saw a little example there of a quick chat. Basically, through a couple quick key presses, I'm able to trigger a little voice file on the other guy's machine, as well as a text string. Now there's one really neat thing about this, and that's that it's actually language independent. So if Bob were running in English, Aiden's running in German. If Bob fired it off, he'd get the English version on his machine, and Aiden would get the German version. So it actually allows a little cross-language communication, which is actually quite cool. Now another thing you'll notice is over on the right side, I've got Callie's portrait at the top, and we've got Vilgor down at the bottom. Now, beside his portrait, you can see a little arrow. Now, that arrow actually indicates which direction from Callie he is. The idea being, we always want you to know where your party members are and be able to find them and hook up. It's keeping the party together so they can share an experience. We think it's a really important aspect of the game. So here we got a little waterfall. It's a little cavern behind it. Seems like kind of a logical place to have a dungeon entrance. Waterfall, cavern, just seems to work out for some reason. So now we're loading into the dungeon we created. Now the neat thing about the dungeon, when we painted it down, we weren't worried about where the lights went. We weren't worried about collision geometry, where people could walk, where they couldn't walk. All we worried about was, let's just blast down a floor plan, put some creatures in. So here's the result. You can see around, got a little torch in the middle of the room. We've got self-illuminated red lava on the sides. It's actually quite an interesting little area. And the great thing was we did this in less than 10 minutes, just able to blast it down quickly. So our cleric character's caught up. Let's actually swap over to him, and we'll get to watch him, see how he's doing. So the cleric's a little more melee focused, so we'll actually head into the next room here. Now, memory serve, we drop down a couple fire beetles. And there's our fire beetles. They turn, they see us, and they start hucking their flaming pitch at us. Cleric closes, manages to kill one. Sorceress helps out, casting a magic missile. She misses, and she hits the dead beetle. Looks like our cleric's quite the death machine when it comes to little beetles. So what we'll do is we'll walk down, see a bit of the dead end here, and we'll head up to the left there. Now, if memory serves, in the next room here, we drop down a platform, which is a group, something that's essentially larger than one tile. It allows us to do a little more visually interesting things. And we drop down some giant spiders. So we'll get fighting the spiders, and we'll get the sorceress to help out. Well, she helps out in a big way with a cone of cold, manages to take out all three of them. So on the ground there, we can see the sword laying there that we created. Now, we call the sword a Frostbrand. We made it have a frost effect. Now, what's neat about it, we can actually set it up so it does have a visual frost effect. You'll actually be able to go in and make frost swords, fire swords, lightning swords, as many different visual effects as we can think up. So let's head on to the next area. We painted down this little lava area and dragged a bridge across it really quick. If memory served, in the other area, we dumped down a bugbear. Now, the bugbear is about 7 feet tall, humanoid, and he's got a weapon. Now, what we're actually going to do here, instead of having Aiden fight him, we're actually going to go into parry mode. So what he's actually attempting to do here is really just kind of block the incoming attacks as opposed to fighting the creature toe-to-toe. Now, this offers a huge level of tactical possibilities. I could set myself up to guard a doorway, or I could merely keep the creature's attention while the sorceress has time to blast it from the side with a lightning bolt. So we're pretty happy with the results of that. We've got the sorcerer's character. She just cast a spell on herself. It's a protection spell. It's called Premonition. It basically allows you to absorb 35 points of damage from any incoming source, up to 150 points of damage. So if somebody did 40 hit points of damage, I would only actually take 5. Now that's per attack, so there's not many creatures that can do 40 hit points of damage per attack. So there's the suit of armor we placed, and at the top of the screen we can see somebody running down. That's our little goblin shaman. He hits us with a fireball, and our cleric also has a couple arrows sticking out of him. So he runs up to take out the other shaman, meanwhile getting pelted with the arrows, and the sorceress is going to help out. Well, she's really helping out today in a big way. She hits him with chain lightning, which takes him down pretty hard. Now what we'll do is we'll go in, we'll take the suit of armor we have on, and we'll put the other suit on, and we'll just do a slow pan around. So you can see kind of some of the metal effects we've done. Again, the armor in Neverwinter is environment mapped, and this is the suit we created. Again, millions of possibilities on what it'll look like. So let's head on into the next room. We'll actually get the sorceress to take the lead here. Now, if you remember, in the next room we dumped down Lickspittle, who has his little conversation. So we've already seen a conversation from the first person with Alexi. Now we actually get to see it from the third person. So you have little Lickspittle going through his conversation. Now there's one really neat thing about conversation in Neverwinter. You actually don't have to listen. When the big end villain starts telling you about how you've thwarted his evil plans and he's angry at you, you can just say, "Shut up," turn around, and fireball him in the head or magic missile him in the head. You don't have to put up with dialogue you don't want. So now we've killed Lickspittle. We're going to heal up. The sorceress has cast a Circle of Protection against evil for our cleric. She's still got her premonition active. And we'll head into the next room, and we'll try out that Balor. Now, every time we run this demo, it's been a little different as to how it turns out. Sometimes the Balor wins, sometimes the characters do, and we can see him up ahead. He turns, he sees our character, and he hits both of them with a lightning bolt. Our cleric used a special attack there. He used a knockdown and knocked the Balor to his knees, but not in time to stop his lightning bolt. Now the cleric's set up to parry the attacks. Sorceress helps out with a prismatic spray, but unfortunately she also got the cleric. She hits him with a lightning bolt, but the Balor's pretty tough, 210 hit points. He's rocking the cleric pretty good. Sorceress helps out again, another prismatic spray, and the Balor manages to kill the cleric. So we're over on the sorceress. We can see her. Let's actually jump over to a little better view of her. There's the sorceress. Now she's trying to cast a spell on the Balor. Again, she's got premonition up, which is protecting her against a lot of his damage. And she goes in for another spell. She gets him with a lightning bolt, and he explodes. When a Balor dies, they explode for 50 hit points of damage. Now, unfortunately, her premonition wasn't strong enough to stop it, so we've wound up with both characters dead. Now, I actually call this the far and away cam. You zoom around the dead body. So what we've just done, a quick little demo, 10 minutes of building a quick little dungeon, another roughly 10 minutes of blasting through it. So if you were actually to play it through fair, we knew the layout of the map, we were able to run through it really quick. It'd probably take you about a half hour to play that. So if you think about it, 10-minute build time, half-hour play time, not too terrible. I'd just like to say thanks again for taking the time to watch the tape, and thanks.